Hello, hello. Hello, Facebook land. If you're seeing this part, then that means you're watching the replay. So please give me a hashtag replay if you're jumping on right now. And I'm just trying to get a few little tech things sorted out. I don't know what's going on here. Hang on one second. Headphones aren't working. Radio. Now we've got headphones working. That should sound better. So hello as you're coming on, please say hello so that I know that you're here with me. And I'm just going to share this to one of my groups, and then I'm going to read to you. So this is the part 2. So I already did the first one on Saturday, not Sunday. I kept saying that it was Sunday. The first one on Saturday. And so now I'm going to continue reading the book, The Blue Diamond Souls, to you, this one, my book. And I'm going to read about activating the womb. So that's where we're up to. So please stick around even if you didn't see the very first share that I did a few days ago. And if it interests you, then you can go back in and watch that one as well. So, okay. Great. Awesome. That is shared. So, hello. Please say hello. Tell me that you're here, that you can hear me. Bali Wi-Fi can be a little interesting at times, so I definitely like to know that you can hear me before I get started talking to myself. No one's commenting, no one's liking. I'm like, oh, maybe the Wi-Fi is not working. Hello. Like testing, is this thing on? All right. I'm just going to assume that you're all being... there we go. Hi, Michelle. Thank you. Awesome. Great. Great. All right. Let's read to you, shall we? So, Blue Diamond Souls, Calling in the Next Generation. I'm going to read to you from page 27. So, I'm going to read to you about activating the womb. And so my journey with the womb is where we start. So you might want to grab a cup of tea or find a comfortable position and allow story time. I love story time. Did you used to love story time as a kid? I loved story time as a kid. So this feels quite fun to be reading to you all. So my journey with the womb. My story of my own womb is very much like many women's. One of disconnection and trauma, and quite frankly, an inconvenience. Let me just attach this. Who else can relate to that? So it was the part of my body that had let me down. It had held pain and past trauma that I didn't want to face. And to be totally honest, if you had told me years ago that I should activate my womb or do womb work, I would have thought you were a little crazy and probably wanted to get away from you as fast as possible. I think on some unconscious level, I knew that to look there would be like opening up Pandora's box, forcing me to look at things that I would rather pretend had never happened. I thought bleeding monthly was a total inconvenience, and quite frankly, I wished it wouldn't happen. I did my best to ignore it and surge on with my day like nothing was different. I mean, what good could come from allowing myself to actually feel what was happening in my body? Best to try to ignore it, right? No. So at the very young age of 16, I'd managed to get myself in a situation and I was not mature enough to be able to handle it. And to be honest, neither were my friends who were thrown into a position of having to support me. I had been the girl with the massive stop abortion sign in my bedroom wall. And here I was in a situation where I knew the best decision was to actually do the one thing that I had judged the most in the world. And so one day I tore down the signs and I resigned myself to the fact that I was not in a situation where I could have this baby that was growing inside of me. So tearing down those signs felt like tearing a hole in my heart. And the devastation of that experience, it shut me down completely for many years. Walking up to the clinic doors, I was faced with women with the same signs I previously had on my wall, yelling at me that I was going to hell and that I was a murderer. The only way I knew how to deal with the shame was to disappear so far inside myself and to vow to never come out again. So I chose to numb myself to life with all that I could manage in the situation and the time, and it seemed to protect me from the cavernous hole of sadness that was building inside of me. I learned that day that life provides us with the ultimate mirror for our own growth, and the things that we judge will come back to haunt us in the actions that we have to take. We think that we care for others. We are actually deeply traumatizing to another when we don't know their circumstances. So in my 20s, I experienced the crippling pain of ovarian cysts. And at the time, I couldn't afford to get them treated. To be honest, I took this on as my punishment for the actions that I had taken at my 16-year-old self. During sex, my cervix would often be extremely painful. So I used that as another doorway into the fact that I would shut down and come into more numbness. I didn't dare admit that I was in pain to my partner, and I would take solace in the fact that I could hold a poker face and not let him know that I was in excruciating pain. I just figured my body was there for his pleasure and not mine. Now, when I look back at that, when I was writing this book of tears streaming down my face, I could see how I allow myself to be further traumatized completely unnecessarily. I thought my body wasn't my own. I didn't really like it much anyway, so why not just let someone else get pleasure from it? The rest of the time I was completely numb. My womb was numb, my body was numb. I now understand that my body actually was in freeze. This is a thing that so many women experience, by the way, and go into this place of freeze and have no idea that they're in freeze. You know, just kind of giving you a side note here away from the book is I just couldn't feel anything in my body. I couldn't feel anything in emotions. I was so shut down and completely numb, and actually I kind of preferred it that way because then I didn't have to feel the feels. But when I realized, later on in my life, and I understand now with so many of the women that I work with, is I was just in freeze. My body just didn't know how to cope with what I had done to it or what had happened to it in my life. And so no wonder life just didn't seem to have much feeling to it. People would say I felt cold to them. Yeah, that's because I couldn't feel anything. So I couldn't understand how to be overly warm and loving towards people. I now understand that it was all linked. My womb and my sex being in freeze made me feel completely numb. And basically that led to an inability to really connect deeply with anyone, especially myself. In my late 20s and my 30s, I tried to conceive and I couldn't. I decided that quite clearly my body was again just punishing me for what I had done at 16, and I shut down even more. Clearly my body was completely useless, was the story I went into. If you had told me back then I was going to end up working with women all over the world to help them heal their wombs, connect more deeply to their own bodies, and have amazing sex and love lives of depth with their partners, I would have thought you were crazy. If you had told me I would be using that work now to help couples conceive high vibrational souls, I would have literally walked away shaking my head. Yet in 2015, that all changed. One day, I was working inside a big shipping container. Yes, literally a shipping container that was converted into an office with a lot of other people. Gosh, I still remember this like it was yesterday. I had this life-changing premonition. I was working on this massive outdoor event. It was hot. It was in Western Australia. It was crammed into this massive metal sardine tin with a whole group of people, very noisy. And I heard his voice. It simply said, Kundalini Dance. I looked around thinking that it was somebody else who said it until I realized that that message was a voice of some sort. I'd never heard of Kundalini. I hadn't danced since I was a teenager, but I decided to type it into Google and see what happened. I literally almost fell off my chair when I saw a course to become a Kundalini dance facilitator come up. So I thought, well, this is a sign. And a few months later, I was on a plane to Bali to spend a month training as a Kundalini dance facilitator. This is corporate chick, very corporate chick at the time, getting on a plane to go hang out with hippies, which is what I thought back then, in Bali. She says now as I live in Bali, and I'm one of those hippies that I judged back then. Literally, I couldn't have had more of a flip of direction in my life. Yet, as you know from my earlier story, I had gone through the spiral and life was changing really rapidly. I can guarantee that pre-spiral me would not have gotten on that plane to Bali. But here I was knowing I could make my own choices in life. Finally. So here I was in Bali wearing goddess clothes. I wanted to fit in, so I went and bought myself some goddess clothes. And this is, you got to think too, I've gone from like being in only designer outfits, high heels, hair all done up, super, super judgmental of just everything and everyone. And so it was a big deal for me to be in Bali wearing goddess clothes and clearing stagnant emotions and energies of myself and others through dance. I finally started to feel my body more and more, and I started to make it my home. I opened up to connecting to my own sexual energy, which was completely new for me. I didn't even know sexual energy was a thing, by the way. Then I began to understand that it's not only important in my life, this sexual energy, it actually is my life force. I mean, why had no one ever told me before that my sexual energy and my life force energy were not only connected, but were basically one and the same? So it's no wonder I felt kind of dead and numb inside. The changes my body went through that month were life-changing. I could not only feel myself, but now I could start to feel others. For the first time in my life, I was able to connect more deeply with other women. I could now not only feel and move my own energy, which I thought was amazing. I knew nothing about energy as well, but I could also move and transmute the energy of a room. And that completely fascinated me, and to this day is a gift that I am deeply grateful for. My Kundalini activated, and I started to feel my body as this fully alive being. Suddenly, an entirely new world opened up, and I realized I could experience orgasmic pleasure through my entire body, just from the feeling of the sun or the wind on my skin. My old self, before that, would have thought I was completely crackers. But now, I know it's not only possible, I know that that is my birthright to feel so alive. It's a gift to the women who also apprentice with me, is that they get to benefit from this experience of me being deeply embodied, deeply connected to my Kundalini, deeply connected to my life force. I truly felt like I had just woken up from some kind of strange slumber. Like, how did it take me this long to start to live? It's also where the name Zapheria was born. It's where I owned what I had already opened up in me from doing the spiral, the part of me that I had kept hidden for most of my life. A week later, I was attending Esther, International School of Temple Arts. It's a spiritual, sexual and shamanic experience in Byron Bay. I was going all out, tell you what, from corporate to Kundalini Dance to Esther. For anyone who's done Esther will know that that's a huge leap. So I got to tell you, that was an eye-opener and a new experience that again changed the trajectory of my path. In honouring of the sacredness of the work, I don't feel to share the details, but I do feel to share with you that there was a ritual that happened that activated my womb. I didn't even know that was a thing. Yet that experience, that opened me to begin to see the door to the mysteries, to understand that the womb is more than a baby-making machine and a place of painful bleeds. It's the most potent feminine portal to the mysteries. It's the seat of our feminine intuition. It's the key to more than I had ever imagined was possible. That evening after the womb activation, I lay in bed and I was beyond amazed that my womb was literally pulsating. It felt like something was alive in there. A little disconcerting at first. And I wondered if I was maybe going crazy and imagining things, until my lover at the time could feel it too. That day, I knew the womb was part of my purpose, and this was a path that I would follow from then on. If I could go from feeling numb and shut down to everything, to feeling so alive I was bursting out of my skin, then I wanted other women to experience the same awakening. So I decided then and there I would do all that I could to journey much deeper with the woman who was running that ritual that day. And so that's what I did. And for the next 2 years, I attended Janine Murray's retreats and as many Esthers as she was facilitating as I could. And gratefully later, I was accepted into her 12-month apprenticeship, and I have not looked back since. Following that, as many of you know, Womb Spiral was born, and the Womb Spiral apprenticeship program. What a deep, deep honor it is now to be apprenticing so many amazing women in the work that I've created. The womb and the Blue Diamond souls are my love of life, are the love of my life. My way of assisting the rising consciousness of humanity and this planet. So here I am, a woman who went from being scared and shut down shell of a person to a fully alive, open and loving woman following the divine calling of the soul. And I know you can do that too. And in fact, that's what I want for you, and that's what I want for everyone. So how can you start to connect to your womb? Well, as a human race, we're disconnected from the womb. Our own womb, the collective womb, the Mother Earth's womb, and the cosmic womb. Women used to go to the red tent and bleed together. We would spend time in sacredness together, sharing stories, doing ceremonies, creating magic, and connecting the cycles of the earth. When the women came home, they would report to the village all predictions for the next cycle of the moon. When it was time to seed, when it was time to harvest, when the weather would change. Women were so connected to the womb that they could feel her, the earth, Mother Nature, the moon, the goddess, and they were divinely connected. The feminine has been rising for years now. And now the womb of the world is rumbling. She's waking up as more and more of us are activating our wombs and starting to work with her again. You know, they say when women awaken, mountains move. I feel that when wombs awaken, get my words out, the ripple is felt across the entire planet. So what's important to speak to here is that you do not have to have a physical womb to be able to work with the womb or even to activate your womb. Everybody has an etheric womb, and each and every one of us can be connected to the collective womb, which means that every single one of us can make an impact by working with the womb. So let's take a moment to connect to your womb. If you're in a place where you can really just drop into silence and close your eyes, do. If you're somewhere where you can't, please don't. If you're driving, please keep your eyes open. But I'm going to guide you through a short womb meditation. So place your hands over your lower tummy, over your womb space. To give you a visual, the womb is about the size of a small avocado. And it's about 3 finger width below the womb. So just placing your hands over your womb, and close your eyes if you're in a space where you can close your eyes. And remembering you don't have to have a physical womb for this. It can be your womb space, your energetic womb. Just trusting and dropping in and listening and sensing what comes for you. So just start to bring your attention to the space beneath your hands, to your womb space. Just starting to imagine that you can send your breath all the way down into your womb. And just being with this for a moment, just breathing, sending the breath down into the womb. Just seeing, feeling and knowing that just by setting the intention of sending the breath to the womb, that is all you need to do. And your body will naturally do the rest. Just noticing whatever you observe. Any thoughts, any feelings, they're all welcome. Or maybe there's a lack of feeling for you, and in the lack of feeling, maybe the numbness, the freeze. Just observing for a moment, seeing what's present or what's not present. That's it. And so even just doing that part every day starts to connect you into your womb. But now let's just take it one step further and just seeing, feeling or knowing that there is an umbilical cord-like connection that drops out from your womb or from your womb space and drops down into the earth. Just seeing, feeling, knowing, imagining that this umbilical cord-like connection is dropping down through the layers of the earth, through the crust of the earth, just dropping it, descending, seeing, feeling, knowing, imagining, visualizing that this cord is dropping deep down through the layers of the earth. You may even sense and feel that there's different textures, different temperatures as it drops. And just allowing now for that to drop all the way into the center of the earth, the central core of the earth, the womb of Pachamama Gaia, the womb of the mother that we walk upon. From this space, you may just want to breathe some of her love and life force energy up through that grounding cord, just feeling if that's right for you. And if it is, just breathing her up into your own womb through that cord. And if it doesn't feel right for you, then no need to breathe it up. Just remain connected for a moment longer. And if you are breathing her love and life force up into your womb space, just sensing and feeling, becoming aware, does anything feel different? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Nothing's right or wrong here, we're just exploring. And so you may also want to just take a moment to know that the womb transmutes that which no longer serves. And so you can just hold the intention to release down through that grounding cord anything that's no longer serving you, anything that you haven't been able to release yourself. And just allow that to drop down into the earth, allowing her to take it for you. That's it. And then from there, just calling your grounding cord back up into your own womb, knowing that as it comes back into your own womb, there's only you that comes back, and anchoring back into your own womb space. And you may want to say, I am myself, and no one but myself. Just allowing yourself to anchor back into your body. That's it. So it's the most simple womb connection exercise that you can do, and it only takes a few moments. But it's something that you can do every day by yourself if you want to be able to tune more into your womb, if you want to be able to connect more into the magic, the power that is available to us when we tune into our womb space. So you may want to do that again sometime, and maybe do it out in nature is really amazing if you can do it out in nature. And so some other ways that you might want to connect into your womb is if you are a woman who bleeds, is you might want to start to track your cycle and to consciously bleed, to be just aware of like where you are in your cycle, when it is that you're bleeding, and when you do bleed, to make the conscious decision that you're releasing and letting go. This is the thing, right, is a total side note off the book, but as women, we cycle. And so even if we are not a cycling woman, even if we don't have a womb cycle, it doesn't matter. We can tune into and connect to that cycle still within our body, within our being. If we're in a body that has never had a cycle and that has never had a bleed, you can still choose to cycle with the moon. You can still choose that with every moon that you are releasing and letting go, that you are cycling. This is one of the beautiful gifts of the feminine, is that we have this every month, this opportunity to release and let go. So if you really want to connect more deeply to your cycle, to your womb and your blood, I would recommend trying a moon cup. This way you can get a really good idea of what your flow is like, the color, the consistency, and it allows you to create a relationship with your blood. You may even choose to start placing it in the earth each month, and that allows you to connect back to the earth and back into nature, and you're doing this as your own personal ritual. So if you haven't heard of a moon cup, you can buy them usually at your local health food store. You can buy them online. Some chemists have them. They're very small, and that you place them inside and allow it to capture the blood for you. I remember the first time somebody talked about that. The first time I heard about that, I thought that was the most horrendous thing I'd ever heard. And now I realize actually just the depth of magic that is available to us when we do allow ourselves to drop in and track what's happening with our cycle. So the womb is always either holding, she's keeping a baby in, or she's shedding and releasing. So even if you're past menopause, you're not bleeding, you can still energetically go through your cycles, as I was just saying, and just choose like what emotions or what stories have I been holding onto this month, and consciously choose to let them go. So what if you don't have a physical womb? For women who don't bleed, you still bleed and cycle energetically. In fact, the crone or the wise woman is at her most powerful, as she can connect to the cycle, her own cycle, at any time of the month. She's also often at her juiciest. So do not believe the stories that have been so deeply conditioned that they became truth, that non-bleeding women dry up. In fact, it can be quite the opposite. Women who have had their womb removed, you still have an etheric or an energetic womb, and it is just as powerful as any woman with a physical womb. Perhaps you've heard of the phenomenon where people have limbs removed and they still feel them. So it's the same. We can have physical removed and we still have the energetic or the etheric behind. So it's no different with the womb. The physical can be removed, the energetic and the etheric is still there, and you're still able to work with it. In fact, one of the women who apprentices with me, who is preparing to become a womb spiral practitioner, does not have a physical womb. So it's not about that at all. It's about learning to tune into the energetic womb. And so how do we release trauma from the womb? Well, one of the ways. So as I mentioned before, the womb either holds a baby or they release and shed. So her power is to be able to shed wounds and traumas and to transmute them. However, most people don't know this, and so instead their womb is holding on to all their past traumas. This includes sexual trauma from abuse, either from others or even from ourselves, where sex has been engaged in either non-consensually or before the body was ready. Birth trauma from complications during pregnancy and or the birth process. And of course, the loss of pregnancies. So conditioned trauma placed upon us by others, either religious views, beliefs, family constructs that have created fear and shame about your body and about your sexuality. For example, being told it's a sin to feel sexual or to have sex, to engage with the same sex or to touch your own body, and so the list goes on. Religious views that still believe in practicing the mutilation of the feminine genitalia. So physical trauma also from conditions such as endometriosis, ovarian cysts, hysterectomies, or any other manner of physical ailments that we have happen within the womb and within our sex organs. And also, past lives can also impact the emotional blockages or the traumas that we hold within the womb. Plus that of our lineage. Like I'll read this bit to you as well. I'll read it properly. I'll stop going off the side and I'll read it. So what about lineage and ancestral wounds? Do you realize that you were inside, get prepared for this, because if you didn't realize this might be a bit of a mind, but that you were physically inside your grandmother's womb. I still remember the first time I was told that, I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. But when women are born, they already have all the eggs and the ovaries in their ovaries that they're going to produce in that lifetime. So actually you started out as an egg inside your mother's womb when she was inside her mother's womb. So inside your grandmother's womb, kind of trippy, right? So if you look back at what was happening in your grandmother's life at around the time that your mum was born, you'll also be able to find a connection to some, or maybe even many, of your unconscious patterns and stories that you are holding within your womb and within your own womb story. So you can look at the trauma you may be holding in your womb or in your body, the learnt conditioning and the stories and beliefs that you run and that you see some, if not many, may actually be your own. Even if they did not start with you, you have the power to release and heal them from your lineage 7 generations backwards and 7 generations forwards. This is one of the things I love about this work, is the depth of power that we can heal the generations that came before us as well. It's wild. It's a powerful exercise to look back at how your grandmother's life was. What challenges was she facing? Like war, famine, poverty, etc. And then look at your own patterns that play out in your life. For example, having money stories that you can't seem to shift, and then looking back to the fact that your grandmother lived in poverty, or having issues around overeating and then realizing that your grandmother lived in famine. So you have the ability to change these stories and to break these old patterns once you can see where they came from. So in the book, there's then a little exercise for you to be able to do, and I'll tell you what it is because it's really, really powerful. So if you take some time to write down, to journal whatever you actually know about your grandmother's experience in her life, and you obviously might need to ask some family members that, or maybe you've just heard bits and pieces, or maybe she is still around for you and you can ask her. But start to compare your own life to hers. So look at what was happening for her financially, what's happening for you financially, what was happening for her like health or religion-wise or culturally, or especially if she was in a time of like war and famine, fighting, not eating. If we have a look at all those different areas of our life and how we respond and we react, and we have a look back at to what was that like for our grandmother, we can start to see some really powerful correlations of either they were in famine and so therefore I overeat because I actually get to have food, and so I have this story of I overeat, or they were in poverty and therefore a few things could happen, like I spend all of the money because I'm not in poverty and I don't want to be in that energy, and so I just I spend everything that comes in. Or it could be like they were in poverty and so therefore because they were, I scrimp and save every single cent and I don't ever let myself have like a treat or do something special or get spoiled. Really, really, really interesting to start to look at, and this is what we can begin to clear working with the womb. So what is an activated womb? And why would you want one? So there's a physical womb if you were born with one, and then there's the etheric or the energetic womb, as I've mentioned a couple of times. So the etheric or energetic womb is the one that we can activate. Yet for most people, it actually remains fairly dormant until you choose to work with it. So you are an energetic being, right? Hopefully you know that. So you can choose to activate a certain frequency within your own field and within that of the womb. So that's like an activated womb is choosing to use the frequency, the vibration of energy to activate the energetic aspect of the womb. So it's like you're waking it up from its long slumber and realizing in fact that it is your birthright to have an activated womb. It is your birthright to have an activated womb. Often get people ask me like, what does it feel like? How would I know? So for me, mine activated and it was very, very intense. It's not always like that for a lot of people. For me, it literally, I think I shared in that story just before, it felt like something was literally alive inside my tummy. Like a very strong current of electricity was pulsing through my womb. But for many, it can just feel like tingling or flutters and pulses within the womb. So it's not necessarily super intense for everybody, but it is definitely for some. And so seeing as energy is a frequency, you can simply choose to learn to use that frequency, right? Just like a radio station is tuned into a certain frequency, you can do the same thing with your own energy fields. And so therefore you can do the same with your activated womb. Because it's a frequency and we are energetic beings, one activated womb can also activate another. Therefore, we can all support the activation and the rise of the vibration of the collective womb for the arrival of the blue diamond souls, for ourselves and also for others. So this is a piece around like when we do work with the womb and activate the womb, we can be activating it purely for our own personal needs and our personal desires, or we can be choosing to activate and work with the womb for the collective and to support the collective womb in awakening, to support the collective womb in raising its frequency for these high vibrational children that are coming through, so that it's not all reliant on the work of the woman who will hold these children, who will hold them within their womb, but also that all of us as a collective can be holding this frequency together. And so this is really important to understand when it comes to working with the Blue Diamond Souls, is it's not only those who are going to bring them through and birth them that have the opportunity to support these high vibrational beings in coming. It's actually all of us, which is kind of cool. So once you activate your womb, you can actually begin to feel that within the earth of the womb of the earth. I'm getting so tongue-tied today. Within the womb of the earth, that there is an ecstatic current, and you can literally choose to connect into that ecstatic current and allow that ecstatic current to move you in your life. So when you activate your own womb and when you connect into the ecstatic current of the earth, you can choose to surrender to a whole new way of living. So I think I'm going to share this story more organically rather than read it from the book. So I'm going to share with you a story from a few years ago. So maybe 7 years ago. So when I was first doing this work around activating my womb and the ecstatic current, and starting to understand that the ecstatic current was a thing, I decided to go away to Vietnam, and I decided to go on a trip where I would only move if I was felt to move by the ecstatic current. So I went to Vietnam for a full month, and I had my first night's accommodation booked because I was like, well, I'll be tired. So I had my first night's accommodation booked, and I had nothing else planned for a whole month other than my flight home. And what the plan was arrive, tune into the ecstatic current of that country, of the earth. I wanted to feel it different to being in my own country. So tuning into the ecstatic current of the earth and the frequency, and then choosing to only move my body when I felt that ecstatic current that wanted me to move. Super, super, super like wild experience, right? And I followed that for a month. And can I tell you how much magic happened in that month? There was even one day where I was literally sitting on the side of the road, like just off the side of the road. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, well, I don't feel it yet. Like, what should I do? I'm not really sure. I'll just sit here, and it's getting dark, and I'm thinking I've got nowhere to stay. What am I doing? And then this guy walks across the road and starts to talk to me. Anyone who's been to Vietnam, they're easy riders, right? And I usually will not talk. If anyone comes to talk to me when I'm traveling, I just don't talk. That's just how I am, right? For some reason, I felt this was different, and I trusted this guy, and I listened, and I ended up going on the back of his motorbike for 4 days and had the most magical, amazing experience that I have had in so much of my times of travel. And so since then, that's the way I move, is I wait for the ecstatic current. I wait to know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, what it is that I'm supposed to be birthing in the world, where am I supposed to be living, what country am I supposed to be in. Hence how I've ended up, living in Bali. I plan to come here for a few months, maybe 6 at the most, and here we are 12 months later. And I'm still living in Bali and have no intention of leaving unless I get that hit again that tells me to leave. Oh my God, I have to tell you another part of this story. Oh, you're going to love this. Okay. So then I went, after that, he dropped me to another, I can't remember the name of the town, but I decided to go for a walk, and I'm going for a walk, and I'm like, I've got no idea where on earth I'm going, but I'm just following this current and I'm feeling it. And I'm standing at the bottom of a driveway, this big dirt driveway, and I couldn't see what was at the top, and my womb is going like up here. I'm thinking, why am I going up? Like, what's going to be at the top of this driveway? I don't want to just go into someone's house. I was like, oh well, I feel the pull. I'm going up this driveway. I get halfway up this driveway, and there's this beautiful little old lady who says hello to me, like we don't speak the same language. It's a complete language barrier. We just kind of nod and smile and say hello. I get to the top and it's a monastery. There's this huge, big gold Buddha, and I've arrived in this monastery. And then a little while later, I walked around and had a look, and then I went and sat down in this chair, and the lady that I had seen walking up came and found me. She came and sat next to me. Again, we're trying to communicate, can't use the same language. She disappears for a minute. She told me to wait there. She disappears for a minute, comes back. She takes my hand and she says, like, getting me to go with her. And I'm like, okay, I'll go with you. I follow this lady. Next thing you know, like, they're dressing me in a robe, and I'm inside a private class within the monastery, a private class of women for the entire day. The Buddhist monk who was running the class gave me my Dharma name, my Buddhist name. I got to go to the funeral of someone, like, of royalty within their following, literally to the funeral, like, with everybody in the class. I'm like going along and bowing at the the coffin and going to the house after, like, just all this amazing stuff that happened to me in these mind-blowing experiences just by tuning in and connecting to what is the ecstatic current and where does it want me to go, rather than me being in my head and choosing where it is that I want to go all the time. So super powerful. So I'm like, yes, you should try it for yourself sometime. So if you want to know, like, how would you do that? Do that exercise that I just gave you a moment ago around tuning in and connecting to the womb. And as you're connected into the earth, just sense and feel. Leave your phone somewhere else. Leave your clock somewhere else, your watch somewhere else. Just go into nature and sense and feel. And when you tune in and connect down into the earth womb, just be with that for a while and wait until you feel that you are supposed to move. So this is best done the first time if you go out into nature, because you'll find that you'll just end up looking at trees and looking at flowers and looking at bugs and just start to get that sense and feel. Super, super, super powerful. So back to the book. So the womb is the seat of the feminine, right? So when she's activated, most people will find that they're more connected to their inner feminine. So no matter what gender, if any, that they identify as, connecting more deeply to their own authentic feminine power, which in turn connects you more to your intuition. So if you connect to her, to your womb, she will talk to you. She will give you the answers and the guidance of your life. So connecting you to your womb connects you to your own feminine more deeply, also connects you to your own body, your sensuality and your sexuality, connects you to becoming more orgasmic and finding a deeper connection with yourself and with others, even opening up to an entirely new level and a possibility of lovemaking and sacred union that you may have never known was possible. So some of the things that I hear women say after they journey with womb spiral or womb activations that they've done with me is that they're more connected to their own bodies. They find connection to their soul's path. They experience more pleasure in their daily life. They feel more nurturing and more loving towards themselves and towards others. They feel more connected to their partners and their families. They feel more connected to pleasure, sensuality, sexuality, so therefore they have an improved sex life with their partner. They feel connected to their own intuition. They create deeper connections with other people. They earn more money. Yes. And they manifest and they create more easily. They conceive with more ease, and they are more likely to experience an easeful birth. They attract more opportunities and people in their lives, and they free themselves from their past trauma and the lineage that they've been carrying through their family and more. That's just a few things. So the womb is a place of creation. So as you connect more deeply to your womb, it becomes natural to follow the cycle of creation of your own life, to step into the realization that you can be your own master creator, conceiving, gestating, and birthing your own ideas, projects, creations, and even yourself over and over. So it's important to realize that the womb is for creating more than just human life. It's for birthing all that you desire in this lifetime. You may choose to activate your womb for many reasons. You may want to activate your womb for the same purposes as I wrote this book. to bring in the next generation and to create an environment that is welcoming to the blue diamond souls. Raising the vibration of your own womb is at the forefront of what you can do to ensure that your body is able to hold one of these children. As through almost no fault of your own, it's quite possible, if you have not done any womb work, that the vibration of your womb may be dense. And it's subject to the life that we lead, being around so many different technologies, laptops, Wi-Fi's, the food we eat, the water we consume, the air we breathe, and of course the emotions that we carry are also a contributing factor. So I want to speak to you now from the Blue Diamond Souls. There's this last little section is channeled by them in their words. And so as I shared when I read some of this on Saturday, when it's in their words, it's quite different. The way they use language is very different. The way that it translates through as well is different. And I chose not to edit it and actually just to leave it in their words. So in their words, the body of a woman holds a physical womb. The body of all beings holds an energetic womb. So you are made up of a physical body, and you are also equally made up of an energetic body. It is equally as important as your physical body. In fact, for us, it is even more of a high priority than what your physical body is. And so to look at the aspects of the physical womb, the physical job of conceiving and of holding and of growing the child, yet the energetic womb of the woman is what actually starts to hold us with our energetic imprint for being born. As we have said many times before on how sensitive we are to energy, to vibration, to frequency, we desire to be held within a space that is an energetic container, that is energetically activated, that is energetically alive and working with us as when we are in the womb. We are also, as well as creating our physical body, we are also creating our energetic body. And so we require both a physical womb and the energetic womb to both be involved in the gestation of us as we lead towards birth. An activated womb is simply the energetic aspect of the womb that is also awake. It is alive. It is vibrating, pulsating, alive being in and of itself. It works in conjunction with the physical womb. So many women can conceive and birth only through the physical womb alone. Yet the impact that has on the energetic body of the child is great, as they are being held in a denser and lower vibration. And we are asking to be born into a higher vibrational field that is supportive of who we are. We also request that the womb be in what we call an activated state in the woman, because it brings her into deeper connection with herself and her own body. She becomes more aware of her inward being, of being able to be fully present in the moment in her body, and therefore is able to connect more deeply to us. She is able to feel the nuances. She is able to feel that we are in her womb. She is able to feel and connect to us at all times. Also, it makes it easier for her to communicate with us. As when we are in the womb, we are constantly energetically communicating with the woman, with the mother. And from this space, when she has an activated womb, she is more likely to be able to hear and understand us and communicate with us right from the moment of conception all the way through till birth. So in fact, an activated womb makes a drastic difference for us in the conception process, in the gestation process, also in the birthing. As an activated womb is more likely to be able to remain completely connected to us through the birthing process. She is more alive and moving and working together as one in our birthing process. And this is to us is extremely important. So for these reasons, we are coming through women with an activated womb, and this is of a high importance, a high priority for us. I found this super interesting to hear this in their own words, actually, and I'm really starting to recognize the women that I know who have conceived and who have birthed these blue diamond soul children who have been doing womb work. I can really recognize how they are able to very deeply connect to that child on a really different level. So last little piece before we finish up. So my presentation at the Seven Sisters Women's Festival in Victoria in Australia in 2017 is a beautiful example of how just activating the womb can be enough for some women who have struggled to conceive or to carry full term, can shift their womb vibration enough to be able to birth a beautiful, healthy child. So during that session in 2017, we did a powerful womb activation journey together. And to this day, the memory of that moment is still so powerful for me, and actually for many women who still speak about it. 15 minutes before I was to go on stage, I went backstage to do some clearing and to drop into my own womb. There was a small handful of women sitting in the tent ready, and not many other women inside at the time. So I dropped into my womb and I asked her to call the women who would benefit the most from my session. And as I did, these big wings came out from my womb. I saw and felt them. And it was like they went around and collected all the women in the festival who would be ready for this session. So I stayed with that for about 5 minutes. And when I walked back out to the front of the tent again, it was full. And more women flooding in. Ended up with around 500 or close to 500 women overflowing from that tent that day. We went through this session of me giving them an activated womb, or of activating their womb, and there were women howling and women crying and women laughing and women in yelps of celebration, and the energy was palpable in that space. I have never felt anything like it. I surrendered that day to the greater calling of the depth of what my womb is here to do, to be able to activate other women's wombs, and in such a big space like that. So for an hour after that session, women were lining up, wanting to come and speak to me. Some a pregnant woman wanting me to bless the baby, and other women wanting me to bless their wombs. And there was one woman that really stood out of that. So many women coming up in that hour. There was one that stood out, and her story that really stood out for me. And I can't remember, it was either 6 or 7 times that she had been pregnant before and she had not been able to hold full term. And I remember later wondering, like, how did that go for her? And I lost contact with her until 2019 when I was back at that same festival, and her mother came up to me. I just got goosebumps all over. Her mother came up to me and she said, "My daughter is just about to have her first child. After doing that session with you, she didn't only manage to conceive, but she also managed to hold that child full term, and she was about to have it in a couple of weeks' time after I saw her mom." Her mom and I were standing there at that festival, both just bawling. I had 3 other women during that festival come up to me and tell me that they had conceived after that session as well. So they're just the ones that I know about, right? There's many that happen that I just don't even know about. So, these are the reasons that I do this work, and this is why I wrote this book, so that other people can start to hear in the words of the Blue Diamond Souls, not hearing it from me, but start to hear their words around why is an activated womb important, and how do we support these high vibrational souls in being born here now at a time when we really need them. Humanity really needs these souls to be here now. Like, that's what this year is about. That's what 2020 is about, is the fact that we've messed things up a little bit ourselves, and let's be honest, we really need to shift the vibrational frequency of this planet, and that's what the Blue Diamond Souls are here for. So that's all I'm going to read for today, but as you can see, there's still plenty left to read over the coming week or so. So thank you so much for tuning in, those of you who were here, and there's a couple of you that were here all the way through the last one and all the way through this one as well, this reading as well. So if you're new to this and you have not heard of the Blue Diamond Souls before, you can actually get this book on either Amazon, if you want it as an ebook, and you can also get it delivered paperback from Amazon as well. But if you're in Australia, Lulu, Lulu is the best website. I'll place a link in the comments when we get off, and I'll also place a link in the comments when we get off about, I have a Telegram chat. If you're like, there's questions that I want to be able to ask the Blue Diamond Souls, you are very welcome to do so. I have a Telegram chat. I'll also link that into the comments. You can come in there and ask any questions of them. Please understand that sometimes the reply isn't very fast. When it's questions that are coming into the Telegram chat, I kind of wait until the Blue Diamond Souls are here with me before I call on them to channel just like one question. I also do offer channeling sessions with the Blue Diamond Souls as well. So if you're like, I feel like part of my purpose is to be connected to the Blue Diamond Souls, or I think I'm supposed to have one, or I think I have one, or any of that, you're also welcome to reach out to me around doing a channeling session, a one-on-one channeling session for you, or 1-on-2 if you've got a partner and you want to call in and conceive a child. Also do one-on-one sessions for that as well. So thank you so much for tuning in, sending you so much love wherever you are. I hope that you're enjoying this book reading, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye bye.